Hi, welcome to me reacting to hate comments part 4, I think. This one's not a hate comment, but someone just said, please react to this comment to the next video. I love you, I want to marry you, and I want to have babies with you. I have a British accent, hopefully that helps. Thanks, Tommy TV. The British accent does help, which actually is the perfect transition for my next comment. I love accents, and in one video I complimented Jessie Smiles' accent just because apparently she has like a Miami Cuban accent and I just like it. One person, however, thought that it was rude of me to say that. They say Jessie's accent wouldn't even be an issue if she was speaking Spanish, her native language, and not English, the language of white colonizers. You're disgusting racist for fetishizing Jessie's sexy accent as she talks about her abuse. I'm sorry if me complimenting someone's accent is offensive or racist to you. This person speaks as if like I'm not an immigrant as well. English is my second language too, you. Sorry, anger issues. Let's just end this episode here. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to part 2 of Trisha Paytas' beef with Keemstar. Honestly, at this point, we should just have a weekly episode dedicated to Trisha's Twitter meltdowns and rants. But before we get into it, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more content, and follow us on Twitter to send over any topics that you'd like to be talked about in future videos. We also post more tea on there. Alright, so Keemstar tweeted this photo and said, just recorded Frenemies next Mom's Basement only on Spotify, with a picture of Trisha Paytas with FaZe Banks and Keemstar on the set of Mom's Basement. But shortly after, Ethan Klein tweeted the photo saying, I'm not even gonna front or try to be funny, this just makes me really sad. Ethan has made it very publicly known that he does not like Keemstar or FaZe Banks, and he and Trisha actually talked about this several times on their podcast Frenemies.
I really think that
you dislike him for real.
I really he's probably the only person in the world that I really dislike.
Okay.
Yeah, I really do dislike Keemstar.
I dislike him too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We can agree on that.
Trisha even agreed with Ethan's feelings at the time and expressed how much of a bad person she thought Keemstar was. But now that she and Ethan aren't friends, Trisha all of a sudden is okay with going on a podcast to talk with Ethan's top 2 nemesis, also while wearing a Frenemies hoodie nonetheless. I'd say I'm not surprised because it's Trisha Paytas we're talking about, but honestly, even for her, this was such a low down move. Like, could you imagine if Ethan invited Gabby Hanna to be on the podcast? How disrespectful would that be towards Trish? This is like the same level of disrespect towards Ethan, which actually Ethan brought up later that we're going to be talking about. But shortly after Ethan tweeted the photo, Keemstar quoted it and said, W's, more W's. Mind you, this man is nearly 40 years old, but I guess if we are being fair, he has the intelligence of a 12-year-old at best. Keemstar then tweeted a screenshot showing that Ethan blocked him on Twitter with the caption, why so sad? Like, dude, don't you have a girlfriend to go babysit or something? Then the long thread of tweets from Trisha began. I'm not going to be reading every tweet in this video because some of them are just classic rambly repeating herself Trisha nonsense, but I will include all the screenshots for you to pause and read if you wish to do so. Trisha starts off by saying, me and Keem have beef, / me and FaZe had beef, / I go on podcasts to talk and try and find peace with people. I did it with Ethan. I went on H3 for the first time ever after he did a video saying I looked like a corpse, a WWE wrestler, etc., and I think he's changed since then. Trisha claims that her purpose for going on this podcast is to talk and try to find peace with people. If this were the true intention though, why not just talk privately with those people? Well, because having a private conversation with him would not have gained any type of attention towards Trisha. Trish knew what she was doing when she went on Keemstar's podcast. She knew that it would cause drama and create controversy around her name, which is the only thing that keeps her relevant and keeps her career going at this point. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Trisha then tries to justify her actions in more tweets by saying that she went on Gabby's podcast for the same reason, to try and talk through their issues, and even though it didn't work out, she still tried. Then Ethan's mother and co-host of the renamed podcast Families responded to Ethan's tweet saying, "What I'm feeling doesn't fit the words. She's such a weasel." Okay, so first of all, I love how the word that Donna uses to describe Trisha is a weasel. Anyway, this tweet clearly sent Trisha over the edge because this is when the continuous back-to-back impulsive tweets start to roll in. In response to Donna's tweet, Trisha says, "What you texted Moses is the most evil thing to ever put out into the universe. If I'm a weasel, you are Satan for even putting that energy out there. You're an evil woman to write what you wrote. It's unspeakable. To put that burden on me the way that you did is the worst karma." Whatever Donna said in those texts, I'm surprised Trisha hasn't posted the screenshots in one of her fits of rage, but yeah, Trisha calls Ethan's mom Satan. This tweet is so obviously Trisha's attempt at trying to deflect the situation of her going on Keemstar and FaZe Bank's podcast. Like, she randomly brought up some text that Donna sent to Moses, trying to direct the negative attention towards her. Now, did this work? No, not at all. This person responded by saying, "Anything Donna said is nothing compared to the things that you said to Ethan, his wife, your fiance. You treat everyone poorly and then want to play the victim? Crazy." This is just one of the many replies calling Trisha out on her bullshit, but this did not stop her from continuing to tweet. In another attempt to shift the blame and negative attention to someone else, Trisha goes after Ethan next. She says, "Ethan ran my mom and sister off social media for literally one TikTok she deleted instantly and still has it up on his channel. His parents degrading me, insulting me still, fine, whatever. But the text that she sent Moses was something only the devil himself would cast upon anyone." So Trisha randomly brings up that Ethan ran her mom and sister off social media. Trisha, baby, your sister did that to herself. Trisha is referring to the TikTok that her sister Callie made, talking about how Ethan took 5% more from the frenemies money.
He takes that 5%.
This became a meme, and yeah, the H3 crew partook in the meme. Did they run her off the internet? No. Of course not. She made that TikTok and people responded to it. Her choices and actions ran her off the internet or whatever. And also, this is the internet. Homegirl could come back whenever she wanted to. No one is stopping her. Trisha then says, Ethan making fun of Crowder for having his dad as his booker. Also, Ethan having his mom and dad fight his battles. Yet another bizarre and failed attempt to distract from her bad choices and actions. Trisha brings up old drama. Ethan was on conservative political commentator Steven Crowder's podcast and set him up to talk with liberal political commentator Sam Cedar, who Crowder refused to talk to in the past. Ethan at some point mentions how Crowder's dad is the one that does all of his bookings and sets up his gigs. What does that have to do with any of this? Or Trisha going on Keemstar's podcast? Absolutely nothing. I'm assuming the second part of this tweet where Trisha says Ethan has his mom and dad fight his battles is in reference to having a podcast with his mom, Donna Klein. Trisha seems bitter that Donna took her place as Ethan's co-host. Like, how are you gonna come for this dude's mother? It's the lack of accountability for being an awful person for me. Trisha then says, I'm logging off. I don't care what anyone says or thinks. I don't care anymore. I went on a podcast. It's not even out and everyone losing their shit. I defended Ethan on this podcast in many ways. People are so quick to judge and send hate. After trying to deflect her shitty actions, she comes back and tries to backtrack what she did. Like, oh yeah, I went on the podcast, but you guys haven't even heard it yet, so how are you going to judge if you haven't even listened to what I said? The issue is that she went on the podcast to begin with. Even if her intentions were pure, which in my opinion they weren't, going on Keemstar's podcast was not only a huge slap in the face to Ethan, but also his wife Ela, who Keemstar continuously harassed by sending pictures of horses to her, insinuating that she looked like a horse. Yes, this is in fact a 40-year-old man we're talking about, by the way. Trisha going on his podcast disrespected Jesse Smiles and any SA survivor, as Keemstar defended Jesse's rapist and also regularly makes jokes about SA. Going on this podcast disrespected anyone who struggles with mental health issues, as Keemstar also is known for making a mockery and joking about mental health and people with mental health issues. No matter what that you went on the podcast to talk about, you still went on his podcast. You still sat next to him and smiled with a man who has disrespected so many people, including your ex-best friend Ethan. It doesn't matter if Trisha went on this podcast and punched Keemstar in the face. She still gave him the time of day and brought attention towards his platform. Has Trisha taken responsibility or owned up to any of this? No, of course not. Also, in this tweet, she says she's logging off. Now, class, do we think Trisha logged off? No, of course she didn't. She then tweets, Ethan's fan base is so unbelievably toxic. It's actually scary. Like, for real. I'm not gonna be run off the internet. I've been doing this for 15 years now, long before any of these people. I'm my own person, then, now, and forever. So just to recap, Trisha has now come after Ethan, Ethan's mom Donna, and now Ethan's fan base. In response to her going on Keemstar's podcast, she says that she's not going to be ran off the internet. I think we all know that by now. What she should have said is, I'm not going to take responsibility for my actions. I'm going to try to make myself out to be the victim in this situation. She then says, you talk about me, I'm allowed to talk about you. That's how the internet works. Yes, your fan base is louder and bigger and more vocal, but it doesn't scare me. I've been through this before with another cult and I survived that. I'll survive this. So now she's brought up surviving a cult, referring to her relation and time with the vlog squad and all of the drama that went down with that. It's like Trisha keeps a list of people and situations that she can use to make herself out to be the victim in. Like, no one said you weren't allowed to talk about Ethan. No one is upset that you tried to talk about Ethan. People are upset because you went on a podcast with the two people that Ethan has notoriously had issues with. Regardless of where you and him stand right now, it was a low blow and disrespectful. Trisha then tweets that she's turning her phone off. She says, I'm literally shutting off my phone. Leave all the hate that you want if that makes you feel better. Imagine sending a hate train to someone for going on a podcast that's not even out yet. So again, she brings up her point that Keemstar's podcast isn't out yet, as if that's what everyone is upset about. She's just missing the point, or she's avoiding it. Do we think Trisha shut off her phone after this tweet? No. She continues by saying, friendly reminder, me and Ethan met and I went on his podcast for the first time when he made a video trashing my looks, calling me a corpse, a WWE wrestler, calling Tana a Twinkie, and a whale. Why? Because I believe in discussion, debate, and trying to change people's minds. So she brings up another old issue from the past that has been resolved. She talks about how her and Ethan met when she talked with him on his podcast. I guess in defense of her going on Keem's podcast. Honestly, I don't know. The two situations don't really come close to comparing to one another. It does kind of make sense, but Trisha also tries to paint herself out to be this peaceful person who is all for talking with others and debating and changing people's minds. But then when people such as Ethan's fan base try to mention and bring up to her about her own vices, she says that they are toxic and in a cult. Trisha isn't willing to change her ways, as we've all seen plenty of times before. As of right now, her last tweet says, it's what I do, it's what I continue to do, and I encourage everyone to have discussions with each other, especially ones that you oppose. You might learn something, you might not, but at least try showing maturity and willingness to grow. So yeah, Trisha the peacemaker, she does no wrong and only has pure intentions, right? At least that's what she's trying to make it seem like in this tweet. She claims that by going on this podcast, it shows maturity and willingness to grow, but like I said earlier, if that was truly what she wanted to do and her only intention was to be mature and grow, then why not just talk to these people in private? Why wear a frenemies hoodie when going to talk to them? It's just petty and disrespectful. Ethan Klein also tweeted, Gabby Hanna messaged me immediately after Frenemies broke up trying to get on the podcast. I knew it would be an interesting show with lots of views to be had, but I didn't even respond to her and still haven't. Some things you just don't do. I would never do that to Trisha. Why do I feel like that would have been iconic? Like, I know I'm gonna get hate for this, but I feel like Ethan should have Gabby on his show to get back at Trisha. But yeah, that was it. I know this video came off pretty biased, but I can't help it, guys. I can't stand by someone who continuously hurts others and never owns up to it. I can't remain unbiased when talking about her constant shitty behavior. But as always, I really do want to hear what you guys think about the situation in the comments down below, as everyone is entitled to their own opinions. Do you agree that Trisha is being petty and disrespectful by going on Keemstar and FaZe's podcast, or do you see it as a mature move on her part? Clearly, y'all know what I think, so let's have some discussions in the comments down below. That's it for today's video. Let me know if you'd be interested in hearing a recap of the podcast with Trisha, Keemstar, and FaZe when it comes out, or if you are tired of hearing me rant about them. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I post new videos every single day. All right, bye-bye.